Well, hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Science Week, and this is the Festival of Farming and Food. My name is Jonathan McCrea, and I am going to be your host for this, our final event in a fantastic series of Science Week events. We are absolutely thrilled to see so many of you joining us here. I know it's going to be a really, really entertaining hour, and we're looking for lots of participation from you. All of these events are free, and that's with thanks to Science Foundation Ireland, the organisation that pays for a lot of the research that goes on in the country, and Teagasc, who are the group that do science and education all over the country, specifically in the area of food, farming, growing, eating, and lots more. So as I say, we'll be here for the next hour chatting with scientists from Teagasc Moore Park in County Cork. Staff and researchers and students are here talking about some of the great work they do, but we want to hear from you. So we know when you hear us talk about some of the research that's been done, and when you've seen the video, you may have lots of questions. Teachers, it's your job to get as many questions as you can through to us so we can answer as many as we can. And the good news is there's a very special prize for the best question that comes in. So please do get involved, and we will send the best question a winner. They'll get a special prize. So don't forget to mention what school you're from, and if you want, which child asked the question. So if you would like to see us on Twitter or on Instagram, we're at Teagasc. You can also ask questions there as well. So before we get into our discussion and answer all of your questions, we're going to play you a short video. This is from all of the researchers who are working in the area of what we're going to be talking about today, which is cows, milk, and food. And so we'll watch the video, and after that, we're going to have a big discussion. Enjoy this. We'll be back in a sec.
Have you ever wondered where the milk for your cereal or your glass of milk comes from? Do you know what animal produces most of the milk we drink? That's right, a cow, a dairy cow. Hi everybody, my name is Emer, and today I'm going to bring you on a behind-the-scenes tour of Teagasc Moore Park Research Centre. Today we're going to find out what dairy cows get up to every single day. We asked some local children, just like you, to send us in some pictures and some questions. We can't wait to hear what they have to say. Can you name any other dairy products?
Milk, yogurts, ice cream and cheese. Wait a second, who's that?
Oh, it's Calf 983. She's very friendly and loves to have her nose rubbed. Oh, and here's one of the scientists who works with her, Fionnuala.
Fionnuala loves cows. Today she gets to work with cows every day doing scientific research all about them. We'll come back to Fionnuala in a little bit. Let's see what your first question is.
How many different types of cows are there in Ireland?
Hi, I'm Sinead. There are two main types of cows in Ireland. Dairy cows are really good at making milk, and beef cows are really good at making meat. When you look into a field, you probably see lots of different colours, shapes and sizes of cows. And that's because, just like we have lots of different dog breeds in Ireland, we have lots of different cow breeds as well. The black and white cows, they're called Holstein Friesians and are really good at making milk. And you might see some small little black cows. These are probably Angus cows, and these are really good at making meat for your dinner.
So did you know that for a cow to make milk, she must first have a calf? A calf is the name for a baby cow. Cows usually have their calves after 9 months in the springtime. When the calf is born, the mother cow starts to make milk to feed her calf. She makes a lot more milk than she needs for one calf. This is why we get to enjoy the extra milk.
How big is the calf?
Hi, I'm Fionnuala. When a calf is born, it weighs between 26 to 38 kg. That's about 26 to 38 bags of sugar. Female calves are called heifers, and they grow into the large cows you see in the field. This calf was this height when she was born, and now she's over a metre tall. Calves can stand and walk an hour after birth. They will moo to let us know that they are really hungry. The first milk a calf will drink is called colostrum. Colostrum has many important things in it to help the calf grow big and strong. It is slightly more yellow in colour than the milk we drink normally.
Do you know all the cows' names?
Hello, my name is Katie. Farmers don't always know all of their cows' names off by heart, but they usually know most of them. Every cow has an ear tag with a different number. These tags are like earrings for cows. The farmer usually knows the cow by the last 4 digits on this ear tag. All numbers on the ear tag have a special meaning. 372 means that the animal was born in Ireland. 22, which tells us that the animal is a cow. Next is the number for the farm where the cow was born. After that, we have what is known as the check digit. The last number will be different for every cow in the herd. This number is a cow's version of a name. So no matter where in the world the cow might go, she can be traced back to where she came from through the numbers on her tag. A cow has to have a tag, but sometimes farmers or their families might give some of their cows names too. This is my favourite cow, Pretty Polly. I think she is the prettiest cow in the herd. Monty got her name because she is a breed of cow known as Montbelliard. They are easily spotted by their white face. This girl is called the boss on her farm because she is always the first cow into the milking parlour every morning and evening.
How much milk does a cow make every day?
Hello everyone, my name is Michael. So all around Ireland we have cows that are producing on average between 20 to 25 litres of milk, just like the ones we have here in this field. So that's 10 to 12 of these milk cartons that are in my hand. Some cows are even producing up to 40 litres of milk. So next time you see cows grazing in the field, just remember they might be the very ones that produce the milk that was in your cereal this morning. And that milk is full of essential nutrients that is excellent for humans.
Why can't humans eat grass?
Hi, I'm Chris. Great question. So there are 3 main reasons why cows can eat grass and we can't. Cows have special teeth that help break the grass down into smaller pieces. This makes it easier for the cow's stomach to digest the grass. A cow chews her food twice. First, she takes big bites and swallows it. The grass then comes back up into her mouth again. She chews it more and makes it into even smaller pieces before swallowing it. Cows and humans have very different stomachs. A cow has 4 parts in her stomach. This allows her to digest grass to give her energy. One of the parts is called the rumen. The rumen is very big, which means grass can stay there for a long time. In the rumen, there are lots of good bacteria. These good bacteria help break down the grass, which gives the cow a lot of energy. Our stomachs don't have these bacteria.
How do you know if a cow is healthy?
Hi, I'm Niamh and I'm a vet. I know a cow is healthy if she's eating and drinking well and has a nice shiny coat. Cows are very curious animals. They like to see what's going on around the farm, often coming up to see and smell you, just like 933. That's a sign that they're happy and healthy. Cows can sometimes get sick just like us. They can get colds and upset stomachs. Cows are herd animals. They like to stay together, eating and resting as a group. If a cow is lying down on her own away from the rest of the group, the farmer knows he needs to check and make sure that she's okay.
Why is milk white if cows eat green grass?
Another great question. When cows eat grass, it passes through the 4 parts of their stomach to be broken down into smaller pieces. By the time it gets to the 4th part, it doesn't look anything like grass anymore. It is broken down into tiny pieces called nutrients. Milk is made in the cow's udder. The nutrients travel from the stomach into the blood and into their udder where milk is made. The udder uses the nutrients to help make milk, which is white.
How do you know what is in the milk?
Hi, I'm Mark. So there are lots of different ways to find out what's in the milk you have. So one way to do this is to spin the milk around really fast in circles using this machine. So this separates out each part of the milk, with the lightest parts going to the top and the heavier parts going to the bottom. And the quicker we spin the milk around in circles, the more they'll separate. So this is actually one of the steps in making butter. After we separate the fat, we spin it around really fast in circles so that all the fat sticks together and forms butter. Milk has a type of sugar in it called lactose. So one of the ways to find out how much lactose is in milk is to add the milk into a narrow tube like this. The lactose will want to stay in the pipe while the rest of the milk will want to get out as quickly as it can. Eventually, the lactose will come out and then we can find out how much there is. We can find out how much water is in the milk by putting the milk in a small tray in the oven. Because the oven is so hot, it boils the milk, changing the water into steam, and anything that isn't water will be left over on the tray for us to measure. We also have a much quicker way of finding out what's in the milk. There's an instrument in our lab which shines a laser through the milk. So the laser bounces off all the different parts of milk and comes back a different colour depending on what's in it. We're able to understand these colours and tell what's in the milk. Cool, right?
Wow, milk really is so cool, isn't it? Well, that's the end of our tour today. We hope you learned lots about cows. We really enjoyed hearing your questions, and remember, scientists love asking questions. So if you want to be a scientist when you grow up, keep asking questions.
So many questions already from all of the schools across the country. So thanks, teachers. I know your fingers are probably hurting by the end of it. You probably thought you were going to get to relax and just watch the video and enjoy the talks, but you're going to have to keep working and bringing in those questions. We really appreciate it. Loads of people to say hello to. Shout out to senior infants in St. Luke's, to Liz Ronan National School, 1st and 2nd class. Thanks for joining us. Miss Hayes, 3rd class in where are they? St. Nestle's Mother in Limerick. Lots of schools from Limerick, and lots of questions coming in. I'm going to do a few more shout outs as they come in, but let's go to Fionnuala first, if you don't mind. Fionnuala, it was really lovely seeing you amongst the calves. You're obviously very fond of them. Do you have a favourite calf?
Yeah, I do have a favourite calf. I think you saw her there in the video. I gave her a nickname called Primrose, but the number on her ear tag is 983. So we call her 983 as well.
Oh, very good. Okay. Niamh, at the moment, it's kind of we're going through a funny time with COVID. Is that something that cows can get?
So actually, no, cows can't get COVID, thankfully, but they do get a different type of coronavirus that can only affect cows. So it's called bovine coronavirus or cow coronavirus, and it can cause actually some of the similar symptoms to COVID, so sniffles and coughs. But thankfully, we can't get it off them and they can't get coronavirus off us.
Good to know. It would be hard to find enough masks to cover all the cows in the country.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Chris, what do the cows eat in the winter when the grass isn't growing?
That's a great question. So usually during the summer when it's really hot and there's loads and loads of grass around, we take that grass, the extra grass, and cut it and put it into a big pile, and then we wrap it up kind of like the way you'd wrap up your sandwiches to keep it nice and fresh. And then come the winter time when there isn't as much grass around, we'll open that up and we'll feed our cows that grass, which we call silage.
Is it as nice as fresh grass?
Yeah, it's so when we wrap it up, it keeps it really nice and fresh. So it makes it really nice and sweet for the cows to eat.
Very good. Katie, some of the cows I saw in that video were wearing collars around their necks. What are they for?
Good spot, Jonathan. So they're actually activity monitors. So they monitor the activity of the cows. So their feeding time, their resting time, their rumination, like Chris discussed in his part of the video, where they bring up the food from their belly and into their mouths and chew it again. So if a cow, they're really good tools to help a farmer monitor the health of the cow, because if a cow's resting time goes way up and her rumination time and feeding time goes way down, then that's a sign that the cow might be ill, and the monitor will send a message to the farmer's phone to say, you need to go check this cow.
So they eat the food and then they sometimes bring the food back up to eat it again.
Yeah, it seems a bit disgusting, but it's actually a good sign of a good, healthy cow. So they eat it once, bring it back up to their mouth and chew it again. So often if you go into a field, you'll see the cow, she's standing there, she's just looking at you and she's chewing. And it's perfectly normal. We also call it chewing the cud.
I'm so glad kids don't do that. I have 2 children who I'm sure would be very keen on that idea. Mark, what kind of experiments do you do in the lab with your milk?
So we do lots of different experiments, some of which I discussed in the video, such as looking for fat, looking for lactose, which is the type of sugar, looking for water. But as well as that, we look for protein, we look for calcium, which is very important in growing strong bones, and we look for the colour of the milk.
Very good. And is there the way sometimes when you're buying paint, there's lots of different types of white, and your mum and dad could spend forever trying to pick the right white for the wall. Is that the same with milk? Is there a certain color that's a really good color for milk? If it's a little bit yellowy, is that bad? Or if it's a little bit pale and gray looking, is that good? Or how does the color thing work?
Usually milk that's slightly more yellow comes from grass, cows who are eating grass all year round. So the more yellow it is, the more grass they're eating, which
Very
is
good.
what cows want to be doing.
So Chris asks, is Ireland the best country in the world for cows to make milk? He's from Charlestown National School. Who would like to answer that one? Fionnuala, do you think?
I think all cows around the world make nice milk, but I think the cows here love the Irish grass. It's full of nutrients and it makes really tasty milk.
Very good. Niamh, there's a question from Niamh. This might be one for you, Katie. How many bones in a cow's body?
Oh wow.
Sorry, that's more of a Niamh question, isn't it? Sorry, it's more of a Niamh question.
I'm trying to remember back to my anatomy classes back 10 years ago in college. There's hundreds and hundreds of bones in a cow's skeleton. They've massive bones that can weigh a few kilos, and then they've tiny bones right down in their feet and in their ribs and in their back. But I'd say there's probably over 300 or 400 bones separately.
Only 3 questions in, folks, and we've already stumped our scientists. Well done. Katie, how long do you have to train for to become a scientist?
So that varies. So Fionnuala and Chris and Mark are currently doing their PhDs, and that takes 4 years. And they will be qualified scientists after that. And they've also done 4 years in college before that. So I guess if you add them up, it looks like 8 years.
Yeah, that's a long time, isn't it? But I guess there's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn, and they will be real experts in their area when they've got to the end of their PhD.
Very good. Fionnuala, how long does it take to milk a cow? And that's from Moira in National School, Moyvan.
Yeah, so usually it takes around 10 minutes for a cow to be milked. So we usually milk around, you can start at 14 at a time, and then you can move up to around 30 at a time. It depends on your size of parlour. So it depends on your size of herd, but for an individual cow, it takes around 10 minutes.
Is it true that robots can milk cows?
Yeah, so there are robots on some farms in Ireland where the cows will stay in the field or in the shed, and then when they're ready to be milked, they just walk into the robot and the robot works away.
How much water do cows drink daily, Fionnuala?
They drink gallons and gallons, and it depends like us how hot the weather is. So when it's really hot, they drink way more water than in the winter, but they drink a lot of water a day.
Lee says, how long does it take to process the milk from grass? Mark, would that be something you'd be able to answer?
In terms of for pasteurization, usually it takes, we heat it up to 72 degrees, which is really hot, but it would only sit there for between 12 and 15 seconds. But some of the other steps, cheese making could take hours, and butter making could take a couple of hours.
There's some cheeses that take years, is that right? We don't do a lot of them in Ireland, though.
Yeah, some take years, but even cheddar cheese, which we eat a lot of in Ireland, it takes a few hours to make it, but then you have to leave it 9 months to ripen, so to develop all the flavors, so the flavors get nice and strong.
Really good question for you, Mark, and that is, why is milk white if grass is green?
One of the reasons for this is because, like we were saying in the video, when we shine light, our light shines off everything. So everything we see is light bouncing off. So even if you look at your hand, the color of your hand is how the light bounces off it. So when the light bounces off the milk, it actually bounces off some of the protein in the milk, and this gives off the white color.
Niamh, this is a very tricky one for you. How long does it take for the nutrients to get to the udder?
Okay, well, this is happening continuously. So if you've ever, like Katie was saying earlier, when you see a cow in the field, they're usually either grazing or chewing their food a second time. So they're continuously digesting the grass in their fourth part of their stomach, and it's moving through their blood to the udder. So I'd say when they take a mouthful of grass, it probably spends a few hours to a day in the rumen, in the fourth part, and then it travels through their bloodstream to the udder in a very quick space of time, and they'd make that milk fresh then for that evening or that morning. So cows are milked twice a day. So you could say that every 12 hours is a new cycle of milk being made from the nutrients that they've absorbed.
Why do they make so much milk? It seems like a lot more than their calves might need.
It is definitely. Dairy cows, like Sinead was saying in the video, are a type of breed of cow that are designed to make lots of milk. And they do produce more than they need, which is great for us. And it's just over years and years and years of, I suppose, evolution that they've been like this. So we're very lucky that we can have some of the milk that they produce.
Chris, why is milk good for you, says someone?
So milk is very good for you. It contains lots of vitamins and especially calcium, which is really good for building strong bones. So there's a lot of different nutrients in it, and that we couldn't really get from other sources, or we'd have to eat a lot of more food to try and get as much nutrients as we can get out of just a single glass of milk.
Very good. A question for Katie. How do the cows get their tags, and does it hurt? That's from James.
Good question. So they get their tags when they're really young, usually just within a few hours of when they're being born. It is a bit of a pinch. It's like when we'd get our ears pierced. Some of the girls in the classes might know about this already. It's a bit of a pinch, but it's for the best for them because it's an identity that they'll have for the rest of their lives.
Very good. Hello to first and second class from St. Nicholas School. Hello to first class Ardbraghan National School in Kevin says, how do cows get their colours? That's probably a Niamh question, is it?
That is a very good question, and it's making me think now too. I suppose it's probably similar to way we'd have different colour hair, and it can run in families. So like in the picture behind Jonathan there, all the cows are black and white dairy cows, and that's just each mother and father cow is, when they have a baby, it's inevitable that that baby's probably going to have black and white colours as well. And some of the beef cattle, they'd be all different colours. So it just depends on what colour their mother and father are.
Very good. Fionnuala, question for you from Sultan. Does milking bother the cows? How does the farmer keep them still?
No, so at the start, when they first begin to be milked, it's a bit uncomfortable for them. It takes a few milkings for them to get used to it. But after a while, they get used to it. They like walking into the parlour, and then they're fed some nuts, which is like a treat to the cows in the parlour. So that makes them stand still. So they do enjoy it in the end.
Very good. Another question for you. How long do calves stay with their mother? From Lauren in Coralstown National School. Please do make sure to give your school name as well as the name of the asker of the question, please. Fionnuala.
Yeah, so on dairy farms, usually the calf is taken away from the mother within the first hour of birth. And this is to make sure that the farmer milks the cow and that they can get colostrum, like you saw in the video, straight into the calf to keep it nice and healthy.
Very good. Niamh or Katie, what should you do if a cow breaks its leg? That's from Daniel Coralstown in National School.
Okay, yeah, well, it's really bad, and thankfully it's fairly rare that a cow would break their leg. They're very strong, but I have seen it in the past, and it's definitely something that you'd be ringing your vet for. The farmer would ring their vet for. And depending on the type of injury, you can even sometimes put a cast on the leg, or they might need to be rested for a while, but thankfully it's very rare.
Hello to first class in Anna Duff, County Leitrim. Big farmers there, he says. That's David. Question from first class Ardbraghan National School, from Maeve. How do cows have their calves? Niamh, I suppose that's you again. How do cows have their calves?
That's a great question. So basically, cows have a very long gestation or pregnancy. So they'd be pregnant for 9 months, very similar to humans, and they give birth to a calf on average, dairy cows anyway, once a year. And thankfully, they usually need no help with that. And it's a very simple procedure that the farmer can just keep an eye on the cow and make sure she's doing okay. And the birth usually takes about an hour to 2 hours. And sometimes it can be a bit slower and you may need to get some help from the vet, but most times cows are perfectly able to do it themselves.
Katie, question here for you. What is the biggest cow in Ireland?
Oh, wow. I don't know what the biggest cow in Ireland is, but in most dairy farms around Ireland, the cows probably weigh around between 5 and 6 and maybe 700 kg. Now that's the dairy cows. And then when you go to the beef cows, they're probably heavier because they've got more flesh and more fat. Sometimes then you might have a bull who could weigh up to 1,000 kilos, 1 ton, which is very, very heavy.
A question, thank you very much for that. A question from St. Cohen's National School. I didn't know there was a St. Cohen's. My son's name is Cohen. And the question is for Mark. What do they put in the milk to make it drinkable?
We usually don't put anything in the milk. We try and keep it nice and pure and fresh. Yeah, we usually don't put anything in it to make it drinkable. It's usually already drinkable.
Isn't that great? All we do is we heat it up, we cool it down, and it's ready to go. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so we just heat it up and cool it down to kill off any bacteria that might make us sick.
Someone says, how do you make lactose-free milk? That might be a question for you, Mark. Would it? Yeah,
so we put the milk through a really small filter to take out the lactose, to separate the lactose out. So lactose is one of the smaller ingredients in the milk, so we can push out the water and separate the lactose and recombine then the water with the protein and the fat.
Very good. Hi to St. Saviour's National School in Rathdrum. Thanks for watching. Killarney National School. How long do cows live for? Fionnuala, how long would a cow live?
So cows can live for at least 10 years, or it depends. They might live for longer. Yeah, it kind of just depends on their health, how healthy they are.
And Chris, what would make a cow live longer in terms of the food that they eat and the nutrition that a cow gets?
So the more the grass content in the diet would probably help the cow live longer. Grass is full of everything the cow naturally needs. So just a combination of making sure that she has as much grass as she needs all the time, so that she's never too hungry or anything, will definitely help her live a longer life.
Thanks very much for that. Chris, Oisin and Anacarty National School, what happens if the calf doesn't drink the colostrum? Who's that? Who was talking to us about colostrum?
Probably Fionnuala, I'd say.
Yeah, Fionnuala.
Yeah, so dairy calves are born without their own immune system in their first few days of life. So they actually rely on this colostrum to provide them with a healthy immune system. So if the calf doesn't get colostrum, their immune system is weakened, so they're more prone to get sick. Then they need the vet. The farmer might have to ring the vet. So it's just really important that the farmer gets the colostrum into the calf straight away when they're born.
A question back for Chris from St. Canice's Rosbercon. I don't know that school. If there are flowers in the grass, do the cows eat them, or do they only eat the grass?
So that's a really good question. I suppose it depends on what flower it is. So some flowers or weeds cows actually really like to eat, and they'll happily eat them, but other ones might taste a bit sour, and the cows won't bother eating them. They'll rather stick to the grass or the other different things that are in the field.
When the cows eat grass, Chris, a question here: how does a bacteria break down the grass? If we just chewed grass and we didn't have if they didn't have bacteria or enzymes in their mouths or stomachs, it would be very hard to eat that grass, right? What is it, the process? How does the grass turn into food and nutrients for the cow?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in grass, there is this thing called cellulose. And we aren't actually able to break it down as humans, but cows can, because in the fourth section of their stomach, their rumen, which is full of really good bacteria. One of the bacteria in that part is called cellulase, and that actually breaks down the grass into really small parts, into nutrients, and that lets the cow absorb that. But unfortunately, we don't have that bacteria, so we actually can't eat that.
Rima says, how much do cows eat in a day, Chris?
So usually we would talk dry matter. So if you basically took all the water out of the dice, so they usually eat around 17 kilograms of dry matter a day.
17 kilograms?
Yeah, 17 kgs.
So like 17 bags of sugar.
Yeah, but that's just without any water. So when you add in the water, it's probably up to maybe 70, 80 kgs of fresh grass a day.
That's like a whole person.
Yeah, it's a lot of grass.
Holy moly. Dylan in Dublin asks, how can you tell a boy cow from a girl cow? I'll give that one to you, Niamh.
Well, Katie mentioned about bulls. So adult boy cows we call them bulls. And usually if they reach adulthood, they're very, very big. So they naturally put on a lot of muscle. They'll be longer, and it is quite easy to spot them in the field. Then they do stick out from the rest of the group.
Excellent. Moving swiftly on to Liam, a Gael's going from Shoga, who says, how strong is a cow, Niamh, and do they wrestle?
How strong is a cow? They're very, very strong. And what I love about cows is they're so tough as well. They can withstand a lot of kind of hardship, and they're really sturdy. You wouldn't want to get into a wrestling match with a cow, that's for sure. We definitely on farms need our special gates so that we can handle them safely when we need to go near them. But for most parts, they're very gentle with people. Dairy cows, they get very used to humans, and for the most part, we wouldn't be wrestling with them. And you don't usually see them wrestling each other in the field. If they're feeling very lively, they might like push heads and kind of headbutt each other, but they never hurt each other usually.
You never see them rear up on their back legs or anything. They wouldn't do it like the kangaroos.
No, not really. They do play, and they might run around, especially if you see cows being let out in the field for the first time after winter. They've been in the shed for 2 months, and you see videos of them galloping out into the field with their tails up, and they might be kind of running around. But usually they're happiest when they're lying down chewing the cud or grazing. So that's what you mostly see.
Very good. Lots of people asking about big cows and how big is the biggest cow. There used to be an ancestor to a relative of the cow was called an auroch, which lived up until the 17th century. And there used to be these cows that were 4 times the size of normal cows. They're like giant cows. And actually, there are lots of giant animals that we only have small versions of now. So they used to be really big, or some of them, but they were all probably farmed, unfortunately. So, Katie, question for you. Why are cows being blamed for global warming? We do hear about that, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So cows, when they burp, they emit methane, which is a greenhouse gas. So cows can be seen as maybe bad for the environment. I suppose we have to think about the fact that as humans, we do things that are bad for the environment as well. So we're doing lots of research in Moore Park and around Teagasc in general at the moment on how we can reduce the impact of cows on the environment. I suppose we have to remember as well that cows produce food for us, which we need to live. If you look at cereals and crops, okay, they don't produce methane themselves, but we need to harvest them, and we burn fossil fuels to do that. So it's all relative, and you have to think of everything in moderation. So we're doing lots of research on that, and there are ways you can manage your cows and ways you can breed them that they are more environmentally friendly.
Very good. Fionnuala, is probably one for you, or Niamh. It's from St. Declan's National School in Waterford. 4th class Reardon's asks, can a cow have a calf if she is sick?
Do you want to answer that one, Fionnuala?
Yeah.
I don't want. Yeah, Niamh, you can work away.
Okay. So can a cow have a calf if she is sick? So yes, they can. Cows, like I said, are very tough, and they sometimes can get a little bit sick like we would. And if it's something mild like a cold or a tummy upset, usually it passes very quickly and it doesn't cause any harm to the cow or her calf, and she's perfectly well able to have her calf.
Fionnuala, Fia from Scolmora in Tullamore says, do cows sleep standing up?
Cows generally like to lie down when they're falling asleep, but sometimes you will see them nodding off if they're in the shed. You'll see them kind of just their eyes slowly closing, and then they'll fall asleep. But usually then another cow will come along and wake them up. So when they do want a good sleep, they like to kind of lie down by themselves and relax and have a good sleep.
Have you ever had a sleepover with the cows?
No.
I think that'd be really nice.
No.
No?
I wouldn't like sleeping in the straw now.
Okay. Question for Mark. What is the difference between cows and goat's milk in terms of how good for you that it is?
Cows and goat's milk have loads of different types of proteins for one. So cows make their milk specifically for calves to give the calves the best type of nutrition they need. So the best diet the calves can get is from the cow's milk. And it's the same with the goat babies called kids. The kids from the goats want goat milk. It's the best thing for them. So the two milks are designed to be different. So a lot of the protein can be different and a lot of the fats can be different.
I know we've mostly dairy folk here, but a question about what's the best type of cow for meat? And that's from second class in Clonmelon. Who'd like to take that?
Katie, Katie
Yeah,
has some beef cows of her own.
Yeah, we have beef cows at home and we have limousines, but there are lots of breeds of cows that produce meat. Such in Ireland, you've got Angus, Herefords, Limousines, Charlies, Belgian Blues. There's lots more, but they're kind of some of the most common ones you would see around Ireland.
And how do you know if a cow is good for dairy versus a cow being good for meat?
So usually you'll be able to tell by their udders. So you'll see dairy cows, you'll notice their udder straight away. Whereas beef cows, if you're looking between their legs, it's not quite as big and obvious. So if an udder is big and obvious, there's usually lots of milk in there. Whereas beef cows don't have that much. They still have some, they have enough for their calves, but they're not producing enough extra that we can use. You'll also see beef animals are a bit chunkier, a bit fatter than dairy cows who are more lean, and I suppose they put more of their nutrition into producing milk than producing fat and meat.
Very good. And Kate, another question for you, which is, when a cow dies, does their tag and number go to another cow?
Oh, good question. No, the tag and number goes with them.
So it's like retiring your jersey from a basketball team.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to be Cristiano Ronaldo's number 7.
No.
Fionnuala, if cows get dirty, how do you clean them?
So cows are very good at keeping themselves clean, actually. And in some farms, you'll see in the sheds that they have things that they can scratch off. So they love a good scratch. And then sometimes if you're bringing a dairy cow to a show, you might give her a bath and a hairdryer. They have special cow hair dryers. So yeah.
What do they look like?
That. Sorry?
What do they look like?
The hair dryers.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a big Hoover, but they blow out the air instead of sucking the air.
I wouldn't mind a bit of that. Everyone likes a bit of a scratch and an industrial hairdryer. Amazing.
Yeah.
What is the best food for cows, Chris? That's from First Class St. Anne's National School, Roscommon, County Galway.
Yeah, so great question. Grass is probably one of the best sources of food for cows. We also give them what we call nuts or rations, which are kind of like treats. So it's made up of other plants. So like corn is in it, or wheat is in it, or barley. And it's really nice and sweet for the cows, but we don't want to give them too much of that just because it can upset their stomach. So just like ourselves, we have to have our 5 a day with our veg and our fruit. We can have a small few treats. Likewise, the cows make up the most of their diet from the grass, and then we give them a small few treats or rations or nuts to make up the rest of their diet.
All right. Mark, how does milk from cows compare with milk from plants as regards to nutrients, so-called almond milk and that sort of thing?
Everything's different. So I don't do a huge amount of research into almond milk. I'm mainly here in Teagasc to do cow milk, but it just depends. No, you can't milk an almond. Unfortunately, I'm sure it will provide us with a lot of milk, but everything is different. So every plant will make a different type of milk, and it depends on what the nutrients is within the plant. So almonds has a certain amount of nutrients, and that'll go into the milk. And the nutrients from cow's milk comes from the food they eat as well. So the type of fat, all the healthy and bad fats in cow's milk comes from the food they eat. So the more grass they eat, the more healthy fats that comes in through to the milk, and the more kind of corn or maize they eat, the more unhealthy fats that comes through to the milk for people.
A question from Ballyleigh National School in Galway from Mark again. Why does milk need to be stored in the fridge?
There's always still bacteria in milk that can cause it to go off and go sour and go smelly. Like when we heat the milk, we kill off a lot of the bacteria, and that makes the milk last longer. So it'll last longer outside of the milk, outside of the fridge. But it'll only last so long. You can only get so much out of it.
And so how do they know when the milk's going to go off? Like, do they get a tip off from the cow, like July 3rd?
No, even when the cows are milked, we always try and keep it cool for as long as possible. So as soon as the cow is milked, the milk goes through a thing that cools it down a bit, and we put it into the tank, which keeps it cool. So like a refrigeration temperature, same temperature your fridge would be at. And then we try and keep it processed in, and hopefully we get, usually when you go into the shop and buy milk, there's usually a week use by date on it. So usually by the time it gets to the shop, you can get a week out of it.
A question for you, Niamh. This is a good one. Do cows have more organs than humans? That's from Miss Beatty.
That's a very good question. Cows have a lot of the same organs that we do. So they have a heart, lungs, kidneys, liver. I suppose the main difference between cows and humans would be their stomach. So we only have one small stomach, relatively small, it takes up very little space. Whereas cows, like we talked about, have a massive stomach with 4 compartments. And the last compartment, the rumen, is huge. And that's why cows have such a large body structure, nearly, is because of the size of their stomach. So that would be the main difference.
Fionnuala, how can you tell if a cow is pregnant? If a mouse.
So yeah, so you can do a pregnancy test on the cow, and that's how you can tell if she's pregnant or not. But you will also see in the springtime, just before she's about to calve, her belly will get a bit fatter.
And do cows get as excited about having babies as humans do?
Yeah, I suppose they do in the spring. They'd be happy when the calf is born.
And would they look after the cow as like for as long? You know the way we have to look after babies, because they can't walk and they can't feed themselves, and they can really take up a lot of your time. When it comes to calves, do calves need that much attention from their mothers?
Yeah, so usually it's the farmer that looks after the calf to make sure that it's okay. So first of all, when the calf is born, like I said, they get the colostrums within the first 2 hours of birth. And then they'll be fed more milk for about 2 weeks. They'll be fed cow's milk. And then might go on to a milk replacer, which is similar composition as cow's milk. Or then they'll be fed cow's milk for a bit longer. And then...
But if they're in the wild, are they good to go, like, or can they not walk? Can they walk like straight out? Can they just walk?
Oh yeah. So a calf can stand within an hour of birth. So then if they're out in the wild, they'll be able to walk around and stay close to their mother in case anything is around.
Okay. This might be a question for Mark. I'm not sure. Maybe Mark or Chris. From junior and senior infants in Lachlan, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. They'd love to know, how much milk can you get from a cow each day, and why do cows moo? So how much milk do you get from a cow each day, Mark?
Chris probably knows slightly more than me, but from my own farm at home, I know cows can milk between 20 and 40 litres. So I think Michael in the video said that that's between 10 2-litre bottles of milk that you'd buy in the shop.
Gosh, that's amazing, isn't it? You only need one cow for a whole family for the week. In fact,
that's what a lot of people had years ago. Everyone used to have one cow.
So someone says, why is milk in the bulk tank creamier? Is that something you could answer, Mark?
It might look creamier, or it would be creamier. Sometimes, to make sure we have the same amount of fat and protein in the milk in the shops every day, we can take off some of the fat and make sure it's at the same, and measure how much fat is in it, like we did in the video, and see, just to make sure we get the same amount of fat and protein in the milk. And that helps our balanced diet, because we know exactly how much fat and protein we get every day.
That was from Jared in Anacarty National School. Keep putting the school names in, are really useful. Thanks very much. Joe in 6th class in Kill National School says, why are bulls angrier than cows? Niamh, are bulls angrier than cows?
Not usually. Certain times a year, maybe around breeding time, they might get a bit competitive with each other. If there's a couple of bulls or more in a field together, they get a bit competitive. But But no, they wouldn't. You can see lots of very friendly bulls, very quiet bulls. And you just have to remember to be careful around all animals. So a cow can be as unpredictable in her mood as a bull sometimes. So you always have to be just on the lookout when you're interacting with them.
Katie, do cows make chocolate milk?
So Mark might know more about this, but cows make normal milk like we see the white milk, and then chocolate gets added by companies to make it chocolate milk.
I love that you were deferring this question to Mark like you didn't know the answer to that. Mark, you may be able to provide more on this pressing issue. Do cows make chocolate milk?
No, cows don't make chocolate milk. Like Katie was saying, you could add chocolate flavor into the milk to make it taste more chocolatey, or you could add strawberry, or you could add banana flavored milks. And if you go into a shop, you'll quite often see a load of different flavored milks, and that's just so people who might not like milk can have a nicer taste they prefer. So maybe people like the taste of strawberry milk more than they like the taste of normal milk, so they can still get their nutrition from the milk.
So even if a cow is brown, they don't make chocolate milk?
But the cow could be red, the cow could be brown, the cow could be black. They'll all make the same color milk.
Very good. Lisrona National School asks, why do cows have fur? Niamh?
That's a very good question. I suppose it's like all our animals. We seem to be unusual as humans and maybe pigs that we don't have fur. We're kind of in the minority really in the animal kingdom. Like most animals actually do have fur.
Yes, I suppose it's an evolutionary thing, isn't it? These animals change over generations to adapt best to their environment. The ones that are the best suited their environment, they're the ones that live longest, have most babies, and end up the animals after that end up being most like them if they're really well suited to that environment. Yeah. It's a good question from Aaron in Dangan National School. Fionnuala, how fast is a cow? Have you ever raced a cow?
How fast is a cow?
How fast is a cow?
Oh my God, I'm not really too sure. They can run quite fast though when they're excited, but
so if you're running, you probably go maybe 13. Well, top speed maybe 13k an hour, and walking is maybe 7 or 8. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say you're right there. Yeah,
right about there. Okay.
I think what we should do to test that is the next spring when they're going out to grass first, we'll put some pedometers on them and check out what their speed is going out to grass.
I think that now we're joking about that, right? But there's a question that we don't know the answer to, and it might be useful because when we look at humans or some animals, isn't it right, Katie and Niamh, isn't it right that you can sort of tell how that animal is doing based on how they're walking? Isn't that right, Niamh? Can we tell that Katie? Yeah, we can. If an animal's not walking right, we know. So maybe if an animal can run really fast, maybe we can infer some information from that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something to look at. And actually what we do here sometimes in Moore Park is we do put pedometers on the cows, and they're kind of like Fitbits. They track the number of steps and how much they're walking, and it's interesting to see. And it's definitely a point to note. So thanks to the kids that came in with that question.
Are there any cows on Strava?
Oh God, I don't even know what Strava is.
It's a running app. Never mind.
All right.
Question for Chris. Sean asks, if you feed a cow different food, does the taste of the milk change? Ooh, that's a good question.
I suppose Mark would probably know a bit more than me, but definitely what the cow eats will affect it.
You can have a stab at this one, I'm sure, Chris.
Yeah. So usually it more so affects the composition from an actual what's in it, the nutrition side of things, but from a taste or a smell point of view, there wouldn't be a massive difference. We mostly standardize it when we process it through the factory.
There are some beef cows that that are fed differently and treated differently, and they have, like, for example, Wagyu beef. They're fed different types of food than and they're treated slightly different, and their meat tastes and feels a little bit different. So, Mark, what about milk? If we fed cows a diet of one of my favorite things to have, like cheese and wine and crackers, would the milk taste different?
Yes, it would. So like Chris was saying, he gave a very good answer there. So if the cows eat something different, they might produce milk that has a different amount of fat or protein or lactose, which again is the sugar. And as we know, well, I personally like stuff with a lot of sugar in it. I have a very sweet tooth, so that'll affect the taste of the milk. If there's more sugar in it, it'll affect the taste of the milk or more fat. But like Chris was saying, we standardize it, so there won't be a huge difference in taste.
You know the way dogs can eat bananas and carrots and that sort of stuff. Like, would it long term be a bad idea to feed cow human type food, or would they not even go near it? Mark?
Oh, I'm sure it'd be bad. I'm no vet. Niamh might be more prepared for that question, but I'm sure like cows love eating grass, and so it's their best diet, and it gives them their best balanced diet. So like people, we have our food pyramid. Cows have something similar where they have to eat certain types of feed. So I'm sure if you kept feeding cows bananas and apples, they wouldn't like it too much.
Like you're so kind giving questions to each other. But I don't think you need to be about to know that you shouldn't need to give them wine and cheese and crackers. Niamh, it's important that they get good quality, nutritious grass. Isn't that right? And in Ireland, we feed our cows grass in the open air for the most part, and that's really good. It makes really good milk, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So cows we're kind of feeding what's most natural to the cows, what they've evolved to eat. So I do think it's definitely best to stick with that.
Alex from third class at St. Nessens says, if you wear red, will a bull chase you? I know the answer to this, and the answer is no, because cows are colorblind to red. And correct me if I'm wrong, Niamh, but cows typically, the reason they when in Spain there was this tradition of bullfighting, and it's not the red that they were that the bulls were charging, it was the fact that they were being poked with a stick, and also having a lot of movement with this red cape. That's what kind of got them a little bit agitated.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know much about.
I don't know much about bull running and all that kind of crack in Spain, but you're dead right. They are colorblind to red, and so it is a myth that if you're wearing red, that a cow's going to chase you.
Mark, Dermot wants to know, what are the nutrients in milk?
So we have fat, we have protein, we have lactose, which again is the sugar, we have water, we have different types of salts, such as calcium, we have vitamins, we have, am I forgetting anything now? I can't think of anything else off the top of my head now. There's no chocolate in it, unfortunately.
Katie, how does mad cow disease affect cattle, from Holy Family National School? Is that a question you can answer?
So I think it affects their brain. So thankfully we don't have any of it in Ireland at the moment, and hopefully it will stay that way.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous disease, and can cause big problems in food production and for the animals as well. So luckily that's in the past for us, and lots of changes were made to farms. Isn't that right, Fionnuala, to stop the spread of disease in a farm? Are there things going on that keep the cows healthy, that to avoid those sort of disease? What would you do to keep the calves healthy and safe from disease?
Yeah, so the main one we have in Ireland is TB testing. So I'm sure some of you have heard of it. So annually, you have a herd test to check for TB, and the calves will be tested as well. And yeah, it's just important that TB is controlled in Ireland.
Fionnuala, you might know the answer to this. We're asking you all of the Olympics of cows today, Fionnuala. Skull Malasha, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, in Carlow ask, can cows swim? That's from Ella.
I'm not sure, actually. That's a really good question. I think they can, like, I have heard of cows crossing rivers to get to other cows, but can they swim? I'm not too sure.
I think they can.
Yeah. I've seen cows swim in Argentina, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Oh.
They can, like, they won't do the backstroke or anything, but they can.
They do a doggy paddle.
Yeah. Mark, does milk? Oh, this is probably Mark. Does milk make you fat? From Joey and Galmoy.
Milk itself doesn't make you fat, but if you're drinking too much of anything, so if you have too much bread, if you have too many fruit, it's all about having a balanced diet. So if you have a small bit of milk, you'll have to have something else as well. You can't eat the same thing the whole time, or it will affect your weight.
I don't know who this question is for, really. So I'll let the first person just put themselves forward first. Be brave. Anna wants to know, why do cows stand and stare at you? Who's that?
I could take that one.
Yeah. Okay, go Katie.
Cows are super curious. And I guess they can't talk, so they can't come up and say, who are you? What's your name? They don't have hands, like we might touch something new to feel what it's like. So they might use their nose to come up and poke at you and suss you out. So they're really curious. They're very interesting animals. They've got big personalities, actually.
Is it true that cows will face in the same direction, and that has something to do with the Earth's magnetic field?
Oof.
That one now.
Yeah,
Anybody?
I don't know that.
That's what I heard. I heard that cows and other animals, when they're eating, they tend to point in a certain direction, and I may have made it up. If you haven't heard it, you know a lot more about cows than I do. So I would imagine that's something you would have known. Okay, so that's rubbish. Forget that, kids. That didn't happen.
I wouldn't write that off as rubbish, Jonathan.
Oh, really?
Let's go check it up. Yeah.
Let's go investigate.
Yeah.
Starting a kids' TV show now. Right. Miss McMahon's class asks, do cows get scared if they have a new farmer looking after them? Fionnuala, would you be able to answer that if you had a new farmer?
Yeah, so as Katie said, they're really curious. So if they see someone that they don't know, they will come over and have a look. But they are quite trusting animals, especially dairy cows. They're so used to humans. So they might be a bit inquisitive at the start, but then they'll get used to the farmer.
4th, 5th and 6th class in Cullen National School ask, why do farmers have to change the calf's bedding daily?
Will I answer this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's just to make sure that they stay healthy. If a calf is laying on wet or damp straw, they might be more susceptible to getting a cold if they're damp. So it's just to make sure that they stay healthy.
And do calves make their own beds after they get out of them?
Yeah. They're well trained.
Okay. Now we've gotten to the stage where you're it's just stupid questions that you're not even I like that. Excellent. I'm sorry, I'm asking really stupid questions. You're asking great questions. Please give the school name and your own name in. Brooke from Shiel Bagan wants to know if some plants are poisonous for cows. Chris, are some plants poisonous for cows?
Yeah, they can be. So ragwort is one in particular. That if a cow eats, there's toxins inside the leaves, and they can actually cause problems within the cow and can actually cause it to die if they have enough of it. But it's very rare that would happen.
Right.
But yeah, there's lots of different plants out there. Just like for us, if we went into our forest and there was poison ivy or something, we'd get a reaction to it. Likewise, cows would have similar plants that they would be allergic to.
So ragwort, that's that sort of big, long, yellow, almost kind of daisy looking thing.
Yeah, exactly. The big, really, really big ones. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can cows eat leaves, Chris? From Ool. That's an unusual. Sorry, that's the name. Ool. Sorry. 3rd class Gorth, and I thought it was the name of the school. It's 3rd class Gorth at Ganny National School from Ool.
Yeah, they can eat leaves. Once again, it depends on what type of tree or hedge it is. So it depends. Some leaves, like maybe a hawthorn hedge, would be really prickly. So the cows won't actually want to eat those leaves because it'll be sore in their tongue. Whereas other leaves, maybe just off a normal hedge, depends how sweet or sour they are. So if they're really nice, the cows will keep eating them, and your parents will be going mad because you'll say the cows have absolutely destroyed the hedge. Whereas there's other leaves on other plants that the cows won't even bother looking at.
Again, and maybe one for Niamh. Polly in St. Joseph's, Arlo, I'm not sure if it's Arlo or Arlo, says, can a cow survive on its own in the wild?
That's a very good question. So yes, cows, like I said before, are very resilient and very tough, and they're foragers. So they will forage for food. Like Chris was saying, they can eat lots of different leaves, and they will pick and pry until they find a suitable diet. So definitely, if cows were in the wild, they'd probably do just fine.
Fionnuala, back to you on the Cow Olympics. How high can a cow jump?
They can jump quite high. You might see some cows jumping gates they want to if they're kind of not thinking straight. But generally, they're quite relaxed animals. They'll just stand in the shed and they won't bother jumping anywhere.
And another question for you. Caleb asks, if a cow escapes, will the other follow?
Yeah, so cows are herd animals, so they love staying together. But if the rest of the herd has gone off, the other cow will try and return to the herd. So they'll try and stick together.
So why does one cow go off then? If they're
Maybe
herd
if she gets a fright, she might just run away and then realize that she's away from the herd, and then she'll just try and turn back to the herd.
Casey, maybe one for you. Why are cows herbivores?
That's something to do with the makeup of their stomachs. They're not made to be able to eat meat.
Very good. Does cowpox come from cows? That's from Milla in Rathley National School. Anybody know? I don't know what cowpox is. What's cowpox?
Is it cowpox, maybe?
Cowpox, maybe, yeah. That would make more sense.
Yeah, there is a type of virus called cowpox, and the one we'd have in Ireland is very mild. Kind of, they get tiny little warts on their skin, and you don't need to do anything with it. But yeah, it's only cows get affected with it.
Of course, they mean cowpox. Sorry about that. Cowpox, that makes way more sense. Sorry, it's my fault. Fred in 6th class in Ringville National School, Kilkenny says, how long can cows go without food? Niamh?
Cows can actually go for quite a while without food if necessary, because that big fourth part of their stomach stores so much grass that sits there for quite a while and can continuously be digested over time. So actually, if they're kept off food for a day or even a day and a half, it wouldn't really affect them.
Katie, can a dairy cow have a beef cow?
Yeah. So if the mom is a dairy cow and the dad is a beef cow, then the calf will be a cross, and we would call that dairy beef cross.
Do you want to go into a little bit more detail on that, or we'll leave it? So, Faye in St. Joseph's Arklow says, do cows like to drink their own milk? Fionnuala? Would cows like to drink their own milk?
No, see, cows like grass. It's only the calves up until they're about 2 months of age that like drinking milk, and then they start eating straw and hay, and then they move on to their concentrates and the silage and the grass.
And how
it's
many,
only when they're babies.
And how many liters of milk would a calf drink, or how many cups of milk?
Yeah, so usually a calf will drink around 2 to 3 liters of colostrum the first milking, and then they'll drink about that much milk for the first 2 weeks of life, twice a day. So around 6 or 7 liters a day they'll drink.
Okay. Mark, why is milk white and cheese yellow? That's from Louis in 5th class, Ringville National School, Kilkenny.
So the people who make the cheese actually put a food colorant into it to make the cheese the color we like, but no matter what food colorant they put into it, the cheese will taste the same. Even if it's a more red cheese or more white cheese, they'll both taste the same as each other.
Now, I know we're supposed to stop at 12 o'clock, but there are so many people still watching, and I'm absolutely loving this. I hope you are too. They will go for another few more minutes, so get your questions in. Remember, best question gets a prize. Tornafulla National School asks another question for Fionnuala. Can cows walk upstairs, Fionnuala?
Cows can walk upstairs, but they generally don't.
There's not much up there typically.
They actually can't walk downstairs though, because of the way that their knees are made.
Oh,
the way their legs bend.
Not a good idea for them to walk upstairs because
yeah, they can't get down.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Katie, do cows like to be petted? From Emily in St. Joseph's Arklow.
So some cows do. So like I mentioned before, cows have really different personalities. So remember in the video earlier on, when Niamh was talking, 933 was rubbing up against her, and she loves to be petted. Everybody knows her here because she's a really big personality, loves to be petted. Other cows don't. It's just like humans. Some cows are really confident and maybe dominant. Some cows are more shy, and they just like to get on about their own business without you petting them.
Very good. This is a question, I suppose it could be Katie, it could be Niamh, could be Fionnuala, so whoever wants to jump in. If a cow's calf dies young, does the cow grieve?
That's a tough one to answer because with dairy cows anyway, like Fionnuala said earlier, the calf is usually separated from its mother in the first couple of hours of birth.
Right.
And because it happens so quickly, usually the mother doesn't the mother cow doesn't get too distressed. But beef cows who have their calves with them for longer, they probably would feel sad and be a bit off for a day or two if their calf died, which would be very sad.
Fionnuala, do you want to say something on that? Or I have seen in documentaries chimpanzees grieve and elephants grieve and lots of animals do grieve, but for cows, not entirely sure. It just depends. Sean in St. Nessens asks, do cows break wind?
They do.
They make
Let's just
really
leave that
big
there.
farts.
Do they sneeze? There's Millie in Shercock National School. Do they sneeze?
No.
Yep.
Do they?
I suppose it depends if they're sick or not. So if they have a cold or if there's a lot of, let's say if they're eating hay, which can kind of be dusty, the odd time they'll cough or they kind of cough and sneeze kind of together. But it wouldn't be very common, not when they're out eating grass. Out in
They
the fresh
cough and
air.
sneeze together.
Well, not really together, but they could do either or kind of.
Yeah, it's a different type of sneeze to a human sneeze.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big open mouth with their tongue sticking out, kind of a big snort.
Right. Okay. Another question for you, Chris. 4th, 5th, and 6th class in Temple, Glanton, Limerick ask, if cows eat nettles, do they get stung?
So generally no. Cows, it's kind of a combination of their hard skin and the way they'll eat it. They wrap their tongue around it, so they won't get stung, but they'll happily eat nettles. You'd often see here if we or any field, if there was a bunch of nettles, they'd happily eat it away.
Niamh, one for you. Why do cows grow horns?
Why do they grow horns? Again, it's an evolution thing from years and years back. Their ancestors all would have had horns, and it was probably to do with protection and maybe fighting. And so the cows today would still have horns, but they're probably evolved to be a bit smaller because they don't really need them anymore now that they're domestic animals.
Speaking about tongues, Lauren in Carlstown National School is wondering, how long is a cow's tongue?
It's actually very long, and you'll see if cows are curious, like Katie was saying about checking something out, they'll stretch their neck out really long, and then maybe if they're still not sure about eating it or touching it, they'll stretch out their tongue and kind of stick it out and maybe touch it or taste it with their tongue, and it actually is very long and very strong as well.
Final one for today, and I absolutely love this. Please have me back to do this again next year. It's been so much fun. But the last one goes to St. Fionnuala National School, 6 Mile Bridge. And anyone can take this. Do cows elect leaders in the herd?
Katie, do you want to answer that?
I don't think they elect them. I think the leader decides who she is herself. So like I was saying, you have different personalities. You'll have more dominant cows and you'll have cows that are shyer and they know their place in the herd. They won't necessarily, we'll say maybe walking in for milking, they won't pass out those cows. The dominant leaders will always want to be the first to get the fresh food, and if a shyer or a subordinate animal tries to get in there before them, they'll poke them away. So it's really interesting to observe, actually. And if you were passing a field someday, or if you have a farm at home yourself, or you're just out for a walk, it's funny to look into a field and try and suss out those personalities, see who are friends, see who might be the bossy lady.
I must do that next time I'm looking at a field of cows. I have absolutely adored spending this time with you all. Thank you so much for your brilliant questions. And if I read out one of your questions wrong, or I mentioned the name of the school wrong, I am so sorry. That's my fault. I'm trying to deal with so many questions coming in because you were so brilliant and so enthusiastic. Great questions. And of course, a good question is the beginning of a really interesting experiment. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope you're really, really enjoying Science Week. Thanks to Fionnuala, Niamh, Chris, Katie, and Mark. Really enjoyed all of your brilliant answers. Such fantastic experts to have on. And thanks to everybody behind the scenes who've helped put this together, Emer and Katrina and all the rest of the crew. Thanks so much for that. The guests were from Teagasc, Moore Park, Water Scholars, and the VistaMilk SFI Research Centre. So that's just to acknowledge all of the places you guys have come to make this brilliant event today. We're going to be featuring videos from the week and the live Zoom recordings on the Teagasc YouTube channel. So you can watch this back and see if your school was mentioned. And if you want to win one for all voucher for €50, all you have to do is fill out the survey that you get in your email, teachers, and maybe you might buy some sweets for the class or something. And one last question. You may have seen ads about creating our future, and this discussion about milk and calves and what they eat and how cows live, maybe that's thrown up some questions and you'd like to know more about it. Well, at the moment, Science Foundation Ireland and the Government of Ireland are looking for your questions. So as a teacher, you might run a little session in your school asking, what sort of questions would we like answered by scientists across Ireland? You can do so at creatingourfuture.ie. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you had a good time. I hope you had a great science week, and it's goodbye for me.